I'm Kara Ray, founder of Ambitious Moms Balancing Business and Babies. I'm a mother, a stepmother to 3 beautiful children. I'm a wife and a proud entrepreneur. I'm a mindset coach specifically for mothers who desire to strip the mom guilt and own their ambition in business and family life. The Powerful and Uncensored Mompreneur podcast is for the ambitious women and mothers who are ready to rise together and empower one another. Get plugged in each week for unfiltered and uncensored conversations between myself and industry leaders who support you, have unwavering points of view, and empower women to believe in themselves. We will be discussing business, spirituality, energy, strong points of views, manifestation, and what I like to call breaking the stigma topics. Conversations that will no longer be silenced. This is a safe place to reclaim your power of being a woman. Let's dive in. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Powerful and Uncensored Mompreneur podcast. Today I am super excited because I have Shauna. Can you say your last name? I was going to ask you that.
It's Poliziani.
I was going to say it so wrong, and I meant to ask you before he came on here. I'm like,
totally
he can say it.
I think like 3 people have gotten it on the first try, and I'm like, you have to have some Italian in you to know where to go with that at all. So
Well, I'm glad I didn't try that. So thank you. So guys, this is Shauna.
Hello.
And Shauna is a designer and branding strategist. So she strives for authenticity, creativity, and transparency. But she considers herself more of an artist above all. So welcome, Shauna.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm very excited because I message you almost all the time, but I've never talked to you in person. So this is nice. Guys, this is also my personal graphic designer. She is kick-ass. So, you can swear on here too.
Oh, great. I probably would have anyway, because it's like a no-brainer at this point. There's no going back now.
Somebody asked me, we were doing an episode and she almost went to swear. She's like, honey, am I allowed to swear on here? I'm like,
well, good for her that she could stop it.
I know, I do not have that capability. There's another interview I have with a lady, and oh my goodness, I was like, I should probably warn people before they go on this one, because it's a juicy one. There's a lot of words.
A lot of words going on here. You need the little, like the thing they put on rap albums. You know, the warning.
Yes, like explicit.
Yeah.
Oh my
I'll do
goodness.
Your rap album cover too. Don't worry about it.
So I want to talk with you about branding and the importance behind it and why people should have a personal brand. And so I have my first question for you is in regards to your background. What was the pull for you that you were like, you know what, this is what I'm passionate about. This is my career. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah. So a little bit about me is like, I've always been an artist. I've always been in graphic design, but I did have a corporate like 9 to 5 previously, 2 years ago. So I was in that, and everybody thinks like that's the way to go. Like once you have a 9 to 5, once you have this job and it's solid and you could be there for the rest of your life, like that's the dream. That's what you strive for. That's what you went to college for. And so I found myself in that, and I gave myself some time. Like the first year I was like, this can't be like what life's all about, like I'm sitting here doing something. I don't even like the work I'm doing. That's where it got to. And so I gave it a year, and I was still unhappy. And I was like, oh my God, like I have to do something about this. And it comes to that point where you're like, you're either going to be stuck in this point where you're unhappy with everything you're doing, and it affects everything else in your life. So I'm not happy at work. My workouts suck. I come home and I'm upset because it's just everything. It's like a spiral downhill. So I was like, I can either sit here and bitch about it, or I can do something about it. And it's that moment of unhappiness, and you realize that you're unhappy and that you have your own control. Like that's when you move. So for me, like I just started my own thing up on the side to like kind of get that aggression out somewhere else, like and get that creativity put into something else. And then it really started to grow, and I was like, oh my God, like this is so much different because I really enjoy this. So comparing that to what I was doing previous. If you guys hear my dogs in the background, I'm so sorry.
I love that I can see them. You
Yeah,
even said that
I
you
know,
would
they're gonna,
come
like,
on now when you're on a call.
yeah, I told you before we got on this call, I was like, they're going to start acting up. You just watch. But so when I compared like how I felt doing my own thing and doing my own work to, what somebody was telling me to do, that's when I knew. I was like, that's the way I want to go. Like, I'm so much better off if I just live my own life, basically. So that's how I generally found out.
Well, I love it because that's basically what happened with me. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to work 9 to 5.
Right? And it's
This
so
is not my
weird.
dream.
It's so weird that that's like put in your head ever since you're little, like that's
is.
the way to go. It's so
Well,
strange.
and it's funny how there's this thing about how the millennials are doing all these different things compared to like the previous generation.
I
And I
believe it.
still remember that my parents, it was drilled into them that they had to go to school, they had to get like, good grades, they had to go get a career and make sure they have benefits and all these great
Yeah.
these things. And my parents, when I first came to them and I was like, you know what? I want to be an entrepreneur. And I was like, but what about benefits? It's like, I promise
Yes!
you, I'll be fine.
My grandma still asks me about it, and like, bless her heart, Shauna, are you have health care? I'm like, I'm fine.
I
I love
promise
her.
you guys we're okay. And so, but
Yeah,
it's interesting to watch that mentality. I even had a discussion with my stepmom about it. And she said, I'm trying so hard to be open-minded about this and to really let this in, but this is so different from what's engraved into my mind from when I was younger. And so, and I even remember talking with my husband. I said, I want my children to know that they can be creative and do anything that they set their mind to, and that they don't have to be stuck in this box. Like, they don't have to be stuck there. And by no means do I mean to offend anybody. If you love your 9 to 5, a freaking men to you. That's great.
right? No, I know somebody too who loves it.
Yeah,
I'm
I
like,
know.
it's a personality thing. Like, you love it, you can find it. Like, I'm sure I could find a job that I love 9 to 5, but well, maybe not me, but there is, like, my mom is a nurse and she absolutely loves her job. So, I mean, there's stuff out there, but that, like, I find it's like more creative, like really out of the box people who have like this really big passion to help in a kind of different way. That's who really thrives in this kind of lifestyle.
100%. And it's because I used to work in the medical field. I was a paramedic for, what was it, 5 years or so, and then I got pregnant, and then my whole life changed. Really, everything just changed. I was like, oh, I'm going to do what I wanted to do 7 years ago, and I'm actually going to create my own business. I was like, I'm going to stay home because that's what my husband wanted me to do. Yeah. But I feel like so many tangents. I love when people go on tangents in these interviews. It's so good. We're talking about grandmas and parents and healthcare. But
that's what we talk about now.
Yep. True story. So in regards to, branding and creating your personal brand, when you have new clients that come to you or previous clients, what is the most important thing behind creating your personal brand?
I would say know what you're about. The thing with me is that, like, I'm just starting to work with people on like the underground stuff with your brand. The undergrounds, that's what I should call it from now on. And that means just like your values, like who your target audience is, why you're doing what you're doing. Like, those type of things are super important to your brand, because if you don't have those, you're not going to know how you differ from anybody else. And branding is like, I don't want to like put it all into one sentence, but it's really, how are you different from what, like, the same kind of person? So if you're a health coach, say, like, how are you different from the next health coach? And you really focus in on those unique points, and that's your branding. Like, because there's something different about everybody and whatever they do. And if you don't know what makes you different, then you're just going to fall right in line and people are going to look right past you.
100%.
So, knowing that stuff and having a really strong foundation, I would say, is the most important thing when you go to work with either a graphic designer or a branding person.
Well, even with because I just paid you for 2 things, but I'm like, I gotta wait because I really don't know what I actually want, but like, I gotta pay for this because I need this. But I have to wait because I don't want to just say, hey, create this, and then not like it. I want to make sure that what I want out there is exactly what I want people to feel, like the vibe, everything. And before I I was actually going to ask this too. Is there anything that you notice when someone is creating their own branding, and is there like something that you can see right away that they're missing and compared to say if they had it hired out?
Yes. I would really say it's the personality thing. Like people, you can create your own branding and you can do it well. You don't always have to, like, if you don't have the funds to go straight to a graphic designer, there's ways you can do it. And you can do it successfully. But the one thing is you really want to make sure your personality is behind whatever you do, because again, it comes back to that, this word's getting overused right now, but authenticity to who you are and whatever. So make sure that it's like, because when people come to me, their stuff generally looks like everybody else's. They're like, oh yeah, I love this font. And I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen that 27 times. Like, but you don't know any better. So, I mean, it's just like, it's a feeling. You were totally right when you were like, I didn't want to rush anything. And I think that's another big mistake. Like you can tell people who just skip past the foundations and they're like, just make me something. I'm like,
okay.
Yeah, right. So it's a combination of things, but I would say just being impatient and not really putting a unique spin on stuff is probably the biggest mistake I see.
Yep. Because even before, honestly, I want to touch on the investment part, because I know so many people are worried about investing into different things in their business. I forever am grateful that I invested into you, because I have no freaking clue how you do the magic you do. I'm like, you know what? I don't even care what I pay, because this is beautiful and it's great and I love it. And so but I really, if people are getting frustrated with those things, like when you hire those things out, that gives you more time to do things in your business or whatever else you want to do, when you're able to hire certain things out. Because forever, I will never touch my own I make my own like workbooks, but even then I have stuff from you. So that is put on them. So I'm like, really, it's something that I really think it's like one of those investments that forever pays off.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's one of those things. Like I've been there too. I've never invested in graphics per se, but I have invested in coaches. I've invested in marketing plans, and it's one of those steps that you have to be careful with. I see the theme is like patience with this stuff. So my best advice, whether you're hiring out for anything, really, it could be an assistant, is just follow the person for a while. Make sure you really like their work. Make sure you find them like trustworthy, because if you don't, I mean, there's a very small chance that you could hire somebody without knowing them at all, without following them, and it would work out great. Like there's always that chance. But why not, solidify that choice that you're making and just follow them for a little bit and just really make sure you know them. Like reach out to them, like build that relationship, because they're gonna be like helping your freaking dreams come true. You know what I mean? So it's not something to rush into. And like I found the more that I've been like following people, I feel more comfortable investing in them, because I know I'm not going to get ripped off. And like if something goes wrong, I can be like, oh, like I would be okay with telling them that, like, oh, this isn't what I expected. Like, can we kind of figure this out? So it's, there's a bunch of stuff, but it's
the same thing. Even when like you've sent me things, I'm like, hey, do you think we could move the picture a little bit? There's never been an issue. And so, but that's what I like about that, because you also strive, like you said, that authenticity, even though this word is coming up, like you said a few times now, but you also have a lot of pride in the work that you do. And I honor that, because then when someone comes to you and asks a question or wants something adjusted, you're creating something for them. Like it's something that they are wanting. And so you're so open to that. And I think that's also, because I've also had other things done where someone has made something that was not what I had asked for at all. And then they refused to make changes.
It's a very tricky thing. And you can kind of tell, I don't know. I don't want to be like an asshole, but like you can tell who's in it just for the money and who's in it because they actually care. And I do pride myself in my work, like you said, because like I will not put out anything that I think looks like shit. And I will tell you, I'll be like, hey, here's the option that you said you wanted to try. It doesn't look quite right, but I wanted to show you. Well, this has never happened between me and you, but like it happens a lot with logos. Like, oh, I have this grand idea, like this is great. And then it just doesn't look like, something that would be appealing to everyone. So I like show it to them, but I'm like, hey, just FYI, like if you decide to go this way, like not that great. So, but in general, like you're paying me to build your brand. So if you want something like, and you're adamant on it and you're like, there's no room for negotiation. Yeah. Okay. I'll make it. Like, it's your brand. I'm here to do what you want. Like, please tell me. So.
Well, and in regards to, because we were chatting about, because I had mentioned how someone didn't like, well, I personally didn't like someone's work, but I was very polite about it. Have you ever had anyone that's happened to you? Yeah.
And I think every graphic designer will run into that. Either, you know, sometimes the communication styles just don't really work out. And I have been in that situation where it's like, you just get overwhelmed with stuff and you fuck up and, you know, you got to admit to it. But like, I have been in situations too, where it's like, they didn't really look at my work because like, if I had to describe my work, mine is clean and I don't like really detailed logos. So if you come to me and you ask to do an illustration, most likely I'm going to send you elsewhere. Now there's been it took me a while to learn that's not my thing. Like, just, I'll pass it on and, you know, leave it be. But, so people have come to work with me and they wanted this idea, and then I build it in my head how it looks. And then they're like, oh, fuck no, that's not what I wanted. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, here I can do the revision, but I really don't think I'm that person for you. Like, if you're not liking any of this, because, you know, like, you did a logo with me, you get like 6 concepts. If you're not liking any of them, like, and you're disgusted by them, like, it, you know, like, I'm always okay with like doing another round and like stuff like that if I misunderstand something. But like, if it just doesn't connect, you're gonna know, you know. So I always give a refund. I'm always like, okay, here, like, just be cool about it. You know, there's no reason to be like a dick about anything. But
well, and I think that shows a lot too, because that's integrity, because you're still passionate about what you do, but also respectful of other people's opinions as well. And so, and even guys, if we're touching on the whole logo thing, when you created my logo and you put out those first concepts, I was like, oh shit, I did not know how to choose. I was like, I remember looking at my husband and I said, I need your help. He's like, but I like them all. Yeah, I know. And then I go to my dad. He's like, ooh, I like this. I'm like, that's 4 out of 6. We've not narrowed anything down. I was like, you guys.
You know, sometimes it happens like that. Sometimes you're like, oh my God, these are all great. And that's because I had worked with you before. And this tends to happen. I'd worked with you before. I knew your style a little bit. So I could create like 6 really good concepts that you would be able to choose from. Now, with some other people, if I've never worked with them before, you know, like the first round may be kind of like, oh, well, I really like this one, but it's going to need a lot of work. That's totally fine. Like, as long as we build and we continually progress, if it's like stagnant energy that you're just sitting there and it's like 4 rounds in and you're like, I still don't like any of these, then that's when you like kind of like, I don't know if this is a good fit, you know? So it's all just a process. That's what I tell people. It's fun. It's fun on my end. And I think when the moment that it becomes unfun is the moment you need to like stop and check. So
yep, for sure. And so in regards to design, and because this is something you're passionate about, do you enjoy just doing work completely on your own, or do you enjoy collaborating with other designers as well?
I like being on my own.
That's okay though.
I like being on my own designer-wise. I'll say that, just because I've been in this thing for 2 years now by myself, and I found that it's really hard to connect with other designers that are kind of on the same level with me. And that's not to say like I'm up here and you're down here. It's very much a style thing. So I like to do my work by myself. Now I do collaborate a lot with other people, like other entrepreneurs. So if they're not an artist, like, oh fuck yeah, let's get into it, you know? Or if they are an artist and they're like a painter and they're like, oh, I need a logo. Like, that's always fun. It's just like, if I'm working on a logo with somebody, then it's weird because it's like 2 brains kind of battling it out. But I do have a friend who kind of helps me out when it comes to like beautiful watercolor designs. And she fucking just gets my brain. It's amazing. So I'm like, if somebody comes to me and they're like wanting that type of style, I'm like, oh girl, you just wait. You know, so she does these like beautiful custom illustrations, and oh, it's fantastic. So she's the one artist that I will work with. But yeah, it's very hard. I don't know how else to explain it other than that.
No, that's okay though. But I think that also you're being really transparent, and I appreciate that because you get to choose when you are also an entrepreneur. You get to choose who you want to work with, who you don't want to work with. That is also your choice. If you take pride in the work that you do, and that's what you want to do, and it's your stuff, why change that if you don't want to? Exactly. And so there's even myself as an entrepreneur, and I don't think it's assholey or rude or anything. Yeah. I think it's just your personal preference, and that's okay. When you step into a career and doing something on your own, you get to make those damn choices. You get to make those powerful choices.
Yeah, even like if you think about it from like a coaching standpoint, like it's probably very hard for you to find somebody who's on the same exact path that you are, especially when it comes to clients and like getting them on the right path they need to be on. Like it's very hard, and it's probably like one in a few. Like, so you get it. Like it's difficult, but I mean, it's good too, because it makes you unique and you can only do your thing. So
yeah. And I always, because I don't chase people either through my coaching. I know who my ideal client is. My clients know who I am. And so and even if someone messages me, I will not sit there and constantly message you back. If it's something that you want to do, you'll be ready for it. You'll come talk to me and we'll do the damn thing together. But I'm not going to sit there and constantly like cold message or harass people for things, because it's just like if I want something, I'm like, hey, send me the PayPal link, it's done. And there's like no other conversation from that, because I've already like made that decision myself that I'm going to do that. And it's the same thing with my clients or programs that come out. They know, and they're ready to make that investment. And it can feel scary as shit. Like I still remember when I was like, okay, I'm going to do a logo and I'm already invested in a coach. And then I'm putting X amount more into there, and then I'm doing more design stuff. And my husband's like, so how much have we invested this month? I'm like, we're already going to talk about it. I was like, it's not a secret, but let it process.
Like, I need to come to terms with it, so just hold on.
Yeah, and it's always been worth it though. But I think that was a great thing to talk about, is in regards to authenticity, having a niche, especially in regards to branding and having your personal brand, and knowing who you serve, knowing what you do and what you're passionate about. I still remember when Autumn asked me, she said, who's your ideal client? What does she feel? What does she go through? I was like, oh shit, this is deep. But I had to get there, because that's how I figured out what I wanted to help these mothers, these women with. And so, but I had to get really clear. And I think that's important when it comes to your branding, because even in mine, I was just talking to Autumn. I'm like, I need Shauna to do some stuff, because I know I can feel a change. Like I can feel a shift into something. And I think people feel so stuck with their branding sometimes, like, oh, I got branding, I can't change it. I've already changed mine twice in 4 months, and I'm going to change it again. You can do whatever the hell you want to do, but then I have stuff to go back to, because it all still has the same information, but it's just a different feel. And so if I'm like, hey, we're in summer and I feel green, but I can go back to that other one.
They always think branding has to be like so strict and like follow these rules, and like with corporate shit. Like I remember looking at these books and being like, the logo has to be placed exactly 1 centimeter from this. So it's like, oh my God, like it can get overwhelming. But like if you're your own brand, you do whatever the hell you feel like, you know? And somebody actually just asked me about like rebranding and when the time to do that is. And I always suggest like, you don't have to change your whole brand unless something in the foundations changes. Like if you decide to switch target audiences, then you might need a rebrand. If you decide say you were about trust and loyalty before, and now you're about energy and freedom and I'm just pulling this out of my ass, but like you might want to change something. So whenever it's something like behind the scenes kind of gets like thrown off or whatever, then you always want to kind of go back and make sure everything's fitting together.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I'm struggling with mine, because mine, I still, the women that I'm serving is still the same, but there's just a feeling behind the branding that I want them to feel in a different way, that
Yeah.
all of my branding has said certain things. And so I can like see it, like I can feel it myself, but I'm like, what does this fucking look like? I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And so
It
I'm
makes it feel so
trying,
good.
I'm like looking things up, and Pinterest has become like my best friend.
Oh yeah, I love it.
I still remember you're like, oh, I need you to pin like this many pictures. And I'm like, holy dynamite, that's a lot of pictures.
No, isn't it? Right?
But it was worth it though, because then when you created the magic, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I see where she does that. Okay, so I have a couple more questions actually, but in regards to when I talk about, because somebody mentioned color theory to me
Yeah.
one day. Can you chat about that? Because I'm
Yeah.
really curious about what that really means in regards to like your branding. But someone's like, hey, does she talk about color theory? I'm like, what is color theory?
So color theory is just basically, to say it really straightforwardly, how colors make you feel and what the, the kind of behind Jesus, behind the color, like what's the color mean? Gee, that was like the worst sentence to get out of my life. Sometimes I just like talk and it goes nowhere. It's like that office quote that like I start a sentence and I have no idea where it's gonna go.
Yep. I've been there, or all of a sudden you're mid-sentence and you forget what you're talking about. You're like, I was on it. I had something to say and now I don't remember.
Yeah, it goes on another path. But yeah, I mean, so you can get really technical with colors and their meanings. I like, for example, purple, it means royalty or being royal. Red is usually associated with passion, stuff like that. Now my thing is, it's going to feel different to everybody. Whatever you put in somebody's face is going to give them an emotional reaction, but it may not be the same as the next person's. So with you, if it feels good to you, that's all that matters, I think, in branding. Now, because you can use red and be the most calm person, and you can do it successfully if you do it right, So I don't really like put too much emphasis on color theory and about it. Now it does come into terms, like you have a blue, you have very calming, like obviously, so it matches. Gold, obviously, like it gives you that pop of like, bam, So it's to me, it's all just a feeling. Like I look at something and I can be like, oh yeah, that's passionate, like,
Yeah.
or you look at something like black and gold and you're like, that's badass, So really that emotional reaction you get from something and the way that you use it is really what's going to set it off.
Yeah, I like that. Because even when you did, even like the designing for the podcast, you nailed that. And even because like when I went and got my pictures done, I knew what kind of feel I wanted and what colors I wanted to have in there. And then I went to you, and it was just like pure magic. And there was just the like exactly what I wanted to feel. And I think that was a good point to bring up, is that your branding has to also, you have to like your branding. Like it has to feel you, because anybody's gonna know if you don't like your shit.
Yeah.
I think that's so important.
Yeah, and it only changes because I would say like individual branding compared to corporate branding is very different. So if you have like a business and it's like set up, it may differ from that, because you're not just thinking about yourself in that, you're kind of thinking about the company and where you want to go with that. But if it's you, it's your individual brand, like if you don't like it, what's the point of it? So, because you're giving the wrong vibes to everybody if you hate it. So
yes.
Yeah, you definitely need to enjoy your own branding for sure.
Oh my goodness, this conversation's too good. You make me laugh. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I also want to ask you, has there been a piece that you designed that you were just like, oh girl, oh my God, this is great. Oh my goodness. And it's something that you can like never forget. And you're like, it's the holy grail of holy grail designs.
Oh my God, I don't know. So I kind of feel like that with every client when I get it right.
Well, that's good.
It's fun because, you know, everybody's so different. So I can be working with like pinks and golds, and then I can go from like that to black and whatever. And I don't know, it is a good feeling with everybody, like when they get that design they like. Now for me, like personally, I think like I just did, I just did like a t-shirt design, like stuff like that really gets me going. So when I design like really cool, like really cool, great stuff. But like when I'm designing, so I design for clients, so it's not necessarily like my designs per se. Obviously I'm making them, but it's your guys' idea, so it's not mine. Yeah. And when I get the chance to do my kind of stuff, so like my branding, my designs, my t-shirts and stuff like that, it's coming from the heart because that's the stuff that I honestly like, I love. So it's like when I do that, I make sure it's perfect to me in my eyes, and then I'm like, oh fuck yeah, you know, like that looks great. So it's that kind of stuff that gets me like through the, you know, like if somebody else, because I don't know how to explain it other than that. Does that make sense?
Yes. It does.
I'm so glad that nobody can see my hands like waving in front of the camera, like what is that?
I think that my favorite part about having these like as a video and then I do the recording for them is that I can see people and I can feel off of them, like it's an energy. And so I've never had an interview that's been like awkward or weird. Like I had somebody ask me that one day. They're like, have you ever had a bad one? I'm like, no.
It's because you asked me what you'd like to be on your show. God, could you imagine?
I was like, I hope not. I said I try to make myself prepared. Half the time, I don't even look at the questions I've written down, honestly. Like, even now, I'm like, I have maybe asked you, like, 2 that I've written down, and the rest of them are just, like, out of the conversation we're having. But I love that because I'd rather be able to have this free-flowing conversation because people can relate to that. Because if we're laughing and joking and just saying random words and sentences, like we're human. So I love that when you're like, I can't get the words out, like, yeah, been there, relate to it.
I've never been like public speaker guy, so this is just coming straight from my heart.
Well, and I think this is such a great tool to expand like your verbiage too, in regards to when you're talking to people, but also your confidence in talking about different topics. Like I have learned something new from each person that I've interviewed, and it's incredible. Like I had another interview this morning and there was tears. Like I was like, I don't even know this woman and I'm sitting here crying. Like, but it was so good. But then I can come on here and I can laugh and swear and have, so it's nice to see these different conversations that come out through a podcast. But another tangent. Oh my goodness.
This is like girls' night out. We're just like with color theory in the mix. It's great.
Oh my goodness. I still, when someone asks me that, I'm like, you're asking me what color theory is? I'm like,
color emotions.
Now I know. So now if someone asks me, I'd be like, hey, does anybody need to know what color theory means? Because I got you covered.
I got it. Yeah.
So if there is anything that you would want, you know, women, because I guess there's women and mothers that are on this podcast to know about branding, that if they're looking to have branding done, what would you say is the most important, that first step for them to take in regards to branding?
I would say the most important thing, even if you're like not even close to hiring somebody to do it, is to know that you're always working on your branding. You yourself are your branding. Whatever you post online is your branding. You are a personal brand. So you want to make sure you don't always have to be on, you don't always have to, you know, like be putting on a show per se, but you need to be aware that what you're putting out into the world is affecting how people view you. And that is a brand. So I think that's the best place to start, when you just become aware of what you're doing and how you're representing yourself to people.
100%. I love that you touched on that, because now we can have another tangent. Because I decided to do that 365-day challenge where I was going live on Facebook every day. Yeah. But my idea behind it wasn't so that I could just like build a bunch of following. It was for people to actually get to know me on a different level, so that when I'm posting information and then I'm talking about it, they can actually see how I'm dressed that day, see how I have a toque on my head and messy hair under here, or I have kids screaming in the background, or I have bags and I'm crying. Like, they get to see all these different emotions of me, because I'm not just what I post on Facebook. And I think that people can get wrapped up in that. And even I have. Honestly, I'm taking this course, and I was mind blown how real this woman was with us, and how she was like, I'm human and I make these mistakes, but social media has made this look like something incredible, or here is the backstory of what has actually happened behind it. And I really strive to make sure that people know that I'm human, that I make mistakes, I fuck up, I can be funny and random and weird, but I can also be very professional, and I can be passionate and driven. And I think I like that you touched on that, because if I show up on Facebook, which I try to show up on Facebook at least in a post every day, but for sure a live every day, but it also, I remind people that it's okay to take a break, that it's okay to take a break and honor you.
Advise to take a break, please.
Yeah. Even when I go on Facebook and I do lives, sometimes I talk about the most random thing on the planet. I'm like, hey guys, I hope you're having the most amazing day, because it can be that simple, because it's your brand and it's what you do. And I remember I was talking to Autumn one day. I was like, I feel like I'm doing all the things, but I don't know how to do all the things. And she's like, why are you stressing about it? It's your social media. It's your life. It's your thing. You're living, breathing content every freaking day. So post what you feel is coming from your heart. Like, it doesn't have to be complicated.
It's one of those things, like, you don't, so my, because I just recently got out of this, like, being on the computer too much. Like, my whole job is on the computer. So, and so is yours. Like, it's these people that live these online lifestyles, they think they're untouchable when it comes to, like, being burnt out on it, because you're like, well, I'm living on my own. It's my own terms. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but you're still working and you're still downloading all this information off the internet. Even if it's just reading people's updates, you know, like, you need to get off of that, and you need to be able to go into real life and kind of live your own life. And for me, that was like a big hit, because I did get really burnt out 2 months ago. And I had to completely back off from everything. It was affecting my work. It was affecting how I interacted with people, just my relationships. So I really just, like, I had this, like, oh my God, you know, this freak out moment. And then I was like, oh my God, it's because I'm online too much. And it's a really big misconception, because you think, oh, well, if I'm online more, people get to know me more, they see me more, they see I'm active. But that's not it, because you're not putting out the right content. You're putting out shit. Like, you didn't take time on it, you don't feel it, it's whatever. But compared to when you take a break and you come back and you're like, oh, I'm ready to kill it, this is gonna be great. You know, there's such a difference in energy, and people can feel that even if it's behind a screen. It's nuts. Yeah. So that's a good thing. Like, if you're online, if you're online and you're working, like, be sure to give yourself a regular break and to kind of go and get invigorated with life.
Oh, 100%. Even this week, I was caught up. I didn't even realize that I was just scrolling just because I could. And I was like, girl, what the hell are you doing? I was like, put your freaking phone away. And then, like, not even 5 minutes later, I was picking it up, and I literally was like, you know what? This thing is going in the cupboard, setting an alarm. And until that alarm goes off, that's when I'm going to grab it. And I've even started saying to my husband, let's unplug a little bit. Let's not, when we go to bed, we don't have our phones, because then we can actually spend time together and have a conversation. I actually went out last night, and it was one of those moments where, because a lot of my friends live out of town, I started meeting new people in town, and I was just like, do you know how nice it is?
Oh, yeah.
People, I was like, oh my God. It was one of those things where I was so emotional. I was just like, thank you so much for thinking of me. But I truly meant it with every part of my being. Because I've been wanting to go out and do things, and I finally met people that are close around me, and they were fun, and they were outgoing. Like, these people, I was like, you guys are my kind of people. Because
right? Oh my God, it's
the one girl literally, I had met her, and within 5 minutes she was like touching my face. It was so funny. I'm not opposed to like, I'm very much of not like a touchy person, but like if someone does that to me, it really doesn't bother me. I'm like, okay, whatever, you touch my face. And so she did, and I was like, I've known her for like 5 minutes and she did this. I'm like, you're amazing.
I like you. I like you. That's so cool. No, like
friends.
and you don't realize you're missing that until you go and do it. And I was even telling my best friend, because it's the same type of situation, like she's an hour away and we don't see each other like as often as we'd like. And then we get together and it's something that we've been putting off, right? Because we're like, oh, I've got so much work to do. I have to do this. I have to do this. And then we get together and we feel so much better. And we have a night where it's just like us and we're not worried about work. Yeah. And we go back and we're like, why were we putting that off for so long? It's not like we didn't want to see each other, because we did. Like, it's just one of those things where you think you're so busy. Let me say that. And you put it off and you put it off and you put it off. And then you finally do it. And you're like, why? Why am I not doing like more of this fun stuff? I feel so much better about work.
I have my best friend since I was young. When me and her get together, it is like no time has ever passed. And it is like by the time I go home, my cheeks hurt, my belly hurts because I'm laughing so hard. I'm just like flying on cloud 9. And every time we're like, we need to get together more.
Right. I know. And that's like something as you get older, you're like, yeah, you have these friends to go back to. And like you said, it's like nothing has changed. And that's amazing, because for people to understand that like you're not always available is great. And then like to go back and have like that friendship be there no matter what. It's fantastic. So.
Yep. See, I love that we went on this tangent too. Guys, you need to make sure you have great friends. People who love you and support you.
So much.
Well, this was an amazing. Is there anything else that you would want anybody to know before we leave?
Oh my goodness. That's like, I don't know.
What?
I guess it's like, who are like the people that mostly listen to your podcast are probably moms. They probably have stuff going on. So I would say, just be patient. Just really take your next steps as kind of a process, and really be 100% there for each one, because once you find out your path, like it's going to go so fast and you're going to be like, oh my God, like this really happened for me. And it's going to be so much better if you can enjoy every step of that. So.
Yes, 100%. Because me being a mom, I literally remember when I was like, when is this going to happen? When are things going to just like be there? But there was a lot of work that came behind that, like personally, for it really to come into alignment and play. But having patience with yourself is huge, and just patience with the process. That is something that has been repeated to me over and over and over, and like engraved in my mind, that just trust the process.
Yeah, it's something like, if you rush it, it won't be right. It's as easy as that. Like, either you're not the person who you need to be quite yet, or there's another door that needs to be opened. So just really take things as they come and, deal with it, and like always push forward, but don't be too pushy. So,
yes. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on here. But before we go, can you let everybody know where they can find you?
Absolutely. So obviously you can find me on Facebook. It's just Shauna Poliziani. And then that's also my website, shaunapoliziani.com. I'm also on Instagram at Shauna Poliz Design. So any of those 3, you can contact me, find me, message me, and I will answer you.
Legit, guys, if you need a kick-ass graphic designer, hit her up. She's fantastic. Yeah. So thank you so much once again for coming on here. It was super fun to have this conversation with you. I love the tangents. I love the tangents we went on. Grandmas, friends, life, design.
Oh, it was fantastic. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. And for all our listeners, I will see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.